Hello and welcome everyone to the installation of our new Chancellor, Jimena James. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm David Morrison. I'm the Chair of the Board of Governors at the University. And I'm going to host the proceedings today. Start by acknowledging that we are present on the traditional territory of the Common First Nation and the Common Council. And thank you for sharing your land with us. Thanks for everyone joining us today. We do have some folks on Zoom. This is live streaming on Zoom, and there will be some participation from Karen Barnes, our President Emeritus, who is on Zoom a little later in the program. We really appreciate everybody, our health and safety regulations here today, and try to make sure that we encourage everyone to keep the mask on and wherever possible. There will be folks who will be keeping the mask on as necessary. Let me just give you a quick overview here. Next, Elder Chancellor will come and say a few words. And then peers will speak, our current Chancellor, and then we will do the installation of the new Chancellor. And then after that's done, Janet Welsh will do the introduction of the two honorary degrees that we are awarding. So at this point, I would like to invite Elder Chancellor to come and say a few words.
I'd like to say welcome, and it's probably the first session I've been at the welcoming of the outgoing Chancellor and welcoming in the new Chancellor. Realizing, of course, this is an area I used to belong to Irish Fawn at one time, and it's inhabited now by the Quantum First Nations and the Tawan. And I think, it's very, very important that we treat the land in a very, very positive way. It's something that the two First Nations want to look after. It's very important, we sit down and we look at one another. We do it in a very favorable way. I know James comes from the same traditional territory that I come from, Championship First Nations. And as the welcoming remarks, I really enjoyed standing in front of you. As today, I was at Fish Lake with a bunch this morning with a bunch of young students that we're going to do some dog mushing this afternoon. It's a program, that is probably going to be ongoing for a long time, and I think, it's important we do a lot of work with the younger generation. Anyways, I certainly like to say welcome, and we'll sit back and if there's any help needed, well, being an elder, I can help. Thank you very much. Chief. Good.
I'm going to keep trying to talk with my mask on. If it's not very clear, I can take it off. Thank you very much, Chuck. That was nice to have you say some welcoming words. Just to speak for a minute about the role of the Chancellor. The Chancellor is the ceremonial head of the university, appointed by the Board of Governors, and the Board of Governors recently appointed James. And the position is a voluntary position for 2 years. The Chancellor acts as a bridge between the institution, the students, and the broader community, and are responsible for conferring credentials on each graduating student. And now under the University Act, the Chancellor is also a voting member of the Board of Governors. And James attended his first meeting just a short while ago as a member of the board. Since 1989, 7 well-respected Yukoners have served in this honorary capacity. Pierre Burton, Pearl Keenan, Ken McKinnon, Anya Lahash, Sam Johnson, Ralph Hogan, Geraldine Van Diver, and Piers McDonald, who's here with us today. Chancellor McDonald, as many of you will know and some won't, so I'm going to chat to a little bit about Piers and what his service has meant to the university. He has been a strong supporter of the university for a long, long time, going back into the days of when Yukon University was Yukon College. And he was instrumental and his guidance invaluable in helping us transition to the university. During his 2 terms, Chancellor McDonald joined us at community dinners as we talked to communities about transitioning to the university. He's contributed a tremendous knowledge that he has and consideration to the development of the university. He also, and this is, Piers does this for many of the things, many people in the community and many organizations that he is part of. He provides thoughtful guidance and advice to the board as we establish Yukon University. So with that in mind, I will now ask Piers, Chancellor McDonald, to step up and say a few words and almost complete his final official duty as Chancellor.
Not very practiced speaking. Firstly, thank you very much, Dave. Much appreciated. This is a pleasant duty, this last duty of the Chancellor is a pleasant duty for me. Partly because I'm helping all of us, in fact, the new Chancellor, somebody who I respect very much, into the role. Partly because it's good to see this university celebrate major milestones in a way that it can sometimes be quite difficult during a pandemic, but clearly there's an ongoing commitment to what we do, what we believe in. We will get through pandemics and everything else that it's a bittersweet moment, though, because I've enjoyed working with the college for almost 40 years now. There was lots of hope and promise back in the 1970s and 80s when I first became associated or got to know the college, or got to know people who worked at the college. But since then, people have picked up the baton over and over and over again to make this a premier institution in the country. And not only has the college met its mandate fabulously well in many areas as a college, it promises to do the same or similar things, not only for Yukon, but for Northern Canada as a university. And it's already gained quite a reputation. And so turning it over to the new leadership, very strong board, experienced chair, others in the institution have shown at all levels, have shown that they are very creative people and have been able to take a very significant mandate for this institution, but also for the territory it serves. We've been able to take that mandate in a very, very exciting way. So this is an opportunity for me to help us all welcome James Allen, somebody who I've known for a very long time, and for whom I've gained enormous respect over the years. He is a very wise man. He's always been a very wise man, even a young person. A wise man and also a very elegant person. So he will serve this institution very, very well. And I'm looking forward to, he's looking for a little bit of free advice. I'm always good for free advice. But I will certainly do anything I can to assist him in his duties going forward. So congratulations to James and to the institution for making that decision. I'm certain that it will be well received by the community. So thanks very much, everybody. And it's been a great run as Chancellor, and I look forward to watching from a distance for many years to come.
I told people when they asked me if I do this, I'm not very good at following the script. So in my own way, I've already messed up. So I'm thinking I'm going to take full responsibility. But I was thinking that there were some other visitors coming. They haven't come. So let me go backwards a little bit before I go forward. So as you saw when you came in, or the beginning of the ceremony, our Spark, Aurora, brought the antler carving in, and Spark is a business administration student here at the university. The absolutely stunning caribou antler was carved by Shane Wilson and was donated as a gift to the university to be used in ceremonial occasions by Jack and the White. So thank you very much, Jack. It's absolutely stunning. And there is a plaque, and if you would like to look at that after the ceremony. Now, folks, it is my great honor to introduce the next Chancellor of the University. James Allen was born in Asia with Bessie Roberts and Jack Evans. He's a former land claims negotiator, counselor, and chief of the Champagne-Ajac First Nation. Among his many accomplishments, James partnered with Yukon College to create the executive development program, which later became our first YukonU program, a Bachelor of Arts in Indigenous Government. So as you can see, James has a long history of working with the university and the college. James is an advocate for education, language, and healing. He has dedicated his life to improving the lives of others, and Yukon University will benefit from his guidance and wisdom. I would like to take a moment to welcome James' wife, Barbara, to the ceremony today, and family friend Doris. Now, Chancellor McDonald, if you would mind taking your chain of office and passing it to me. Then I will get and James, if I could have you come up and and I now present to the
Jemana, we have banquet. Luna, Chair, Shadala, Ishidan, Chair, Christian Corner, Tom, Christian, Kai, Kanida, Kai Kushu. Introducing myself, I just said my First Nation name, but I am James Allen. I belong to the Wolf Clan, and I'm a member of the Chancellor First Nation. I also thank the Commandant and Mclaughlin people for allowing us to meet on their land and allowing us to speak on their land. And it was an honor for me to accept the role of Chancellor, because I think it allowed me to become involved with the education of all Yukoners, along with the inclusion of Yukon First Nations. And as we all know, a lot of the Yukon First Nations are implementing their land lease agreements now. And in order to do that, they require educated people to do that, to work within the governance system of our First Nations governments. And I've always advocated that we have to build our resources from within our First Nations to run our governments. And as you mentioned, as was mentioned before, that I pushed to have some of our First Nations people and our staff take part in a program that was co-designed by Chancellor and also the college at the time. That was to help that our people gain the knowledge and the training to help us govern our people and our First Nations. And I have a saying that I have one hand on the computer and 1 foot on the land. And to me, that means that today we have to make it, as First Nation people, we have to embrace the mainstream education, but never lose where we come from, our culture and the traditions that we have on our land. Yeah, we cannot forget who we are. And I know that, I do know that the college started to develop a great inclusion of First Nations content in their programs, and also included some of our traditional practices on the campus grounds. And I would like to support continuing that as we move along. As I mentioned, I'm honored to be a part of this university team, and that will develop a unique vision and a path to the new Yukon University. I think, working together, we will be setting a high standard for our education facility in the Yukon, but also develop it so that it is the Yukon model, one that hopefully will all proud of. Thank you.
Just before we move to our next part of the program, I'd like to introduce to you a couple of people who are on my right. My immediate right is Janet Welch, Vice President Academic and Provost. Janet will be taking over the podium here in a minute. And then on Janet's right is Maggie Mateer, the President of Yukon University. So I'm going to hand this part of the program over to Janet, and that people come right off. No, I'm good. We're good. Oops. Karen, Lacey, have you got Karen?
Hi, David. Can you hear me?
I can.
Thank you so much for allowing me these few minutes to speak as your voice in the sky, not in a helicopter, but somewhere in cyberspace. Hello, everyone. I didn't want to miss this opportunity to say congratulations to James, Chief Allen. And I'm so sorry not to be there to say these things in person to you, but hopefully someday soon we can connect again. James and I met over a decade ago when he was chief of CAFN and I was a pretty newbie to the Yukon. I was trying to establish the FNGPA program with Champagne-Agiac. Those were the very early days. And there was a lot of challenge in those early days as we learned how to collaborate and co-design and how to understand one another in the process. I had the privilege of learning about self-government and the unique political environment in Yukon, and why a degree in Indigenous governance was an essential first step for the university and for Yukon First Nations. Over the years, we've run into each other, sometimes on a street corner or at an event. And the last time was at a leadership table, when we came to talk to leadership about the science building and our vision for a new kind of teaching. And you that day provided me with a lesson on traditional knowledge that I will never forget. It showed me why you are held up as not only a strong leader, but also a wonderful teacher. I had the privilege to chair the Chancellor Selection Committee, which meant that I got to be the one to call you with the news of your selection. And it was so fun to hear your excitement, your humility, and your enthusiasm for that role. I knew then that you were going to embrace it and make it your own. Thank you for accepting the challenge. The university will learn so much from you. You bring so many talents and so many gifts that both staff and students will benefit from. Thank you so much for agreeing to take on the role. Masi and Gunash. All the best. I also wanted to take a few minutes to thank Pierce McDonald for the past 4 years. When I met Pierce, it was clear that we shared two things. First, a friendship with Paul Flaherty, which created a bond between us even before we really met, and taught me so much about what we shared for values. But we also shared a love for education, writ large, big visions that could change a society, like a college on a hill, citizen governance, or a university for the North. You gave us all, despite a very demanding schedule, and I especially loved the emotion you showed every year at convocation. Our conversations about skill training and self-government, and seeing you speak in the community at those dinners. And most especially, I love the history that you taught me about the university's beginnings. And I love that you got what we were trying to do with reconciliation and that you wanted to help. You are such a highly respected Yukoner, Pierce, and we were so lucky to have you at such a pivotal juncture in the history of the institution. Thank you. And very quickly, congratulations, Dave and Audrey. So glad the day has come. Thanks again. I'll turn off my mic now and enjoy the rest of the celebration.
Thanks, Karen. So now that I'm back in order, I'm going to give the podium to Dr. Janet Welch, the Vice President of Academic and Provost, to read the credentials.
Thank you, David. As Canada's first university north of 60, YukonU is breaking the trail in research and post-secondary education in the North. Therefore, it's appropriate the first two recipients of honorary Yukon University Bachelor of Arts degrees are two Yukoners who have each blazed a unique trail and created lasting impacts in their communities, in Canada, and throughout the world. Both recipients were nominated by members of Yukon University community. The nominations were reviewed by a committee of faculty and staff, and then approved by Senate and our Board of Governors. I will speak a little about the first recipient, then invite them to step forward to receive their credential and say a few words. And I will then do the same with the second recipient. Earning a university degree while parenting two young children and running a small business is something many of our students can identify with. I hope students see something of themselves in Audrey Mclaughlin and are inspired by all she has achieved across a magnificent life in dedicated service to the public good. Audrey grew up in Ontario and was executive director of the Canadian Mental Health Association and a social worker in Toronto before heading north in 1979. In Yukon, she opened a consulting business working on projects such as child welfare legislation and research on land claims and Aboriginal self-government. From 1987 to 1997, she served Yukoners as a member of parliament, and in 1989, she became leader of the NDP, the first female leader of a federal political party and the first to lead one from the north. Throughout this time and in the years following, Audrey has paid close attention to the evolution of Yukon College. She advocated for the creation of a Yukon-based Bachelor of Social Work program, sat on the governing council of the Northern Research Institute, which was the precursor of the YukonU Research Center, and was involved in the creation of the University of the Arctic as a YukonU, of which YukonU is a member. In 2016, her friends created the Audrey Mclaughlin Award in Social Work. This award provides annual financial support to women pursuing a Bachelor of Social Work through the Yukon University and University of Regina. Audrey has also impacted communities across the globe through chairing and co-chairing international delegations to oversee the integrity of elections held in countries such as Côte d'Ivoire, Sierra Leone, Niger, Iraq, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Lebanon, as well as working on peace and social justice issues in Bahrain, Yemen, Morocco, and Kosovo. Whether out in the world or here at home in Yukon, Audrey's gift is to bring people together from diverse backgrounds and interests to work together and devise solutions for a better community. It is my honor to ask Chancellor Allen to present this Yukon University Bachelor of Arts to Audrey Mclaughlin. I will now ask Audrey and Chancellor Allen to make their way up front with their masks on. Yes, check. Then step forward for the degree presentation.
Would you please both look this way, holding the. Nice. Nice. Thank you. And we were smiling, but nobody knew.
And Audrey, if you'd like to say a few words.
Well, I'll just say a few words. It is a great honor to receive this. Certainly, I certainly didn't expect it, but I'm really thrilled about the establishment of the university, the first north of 60, as Jenna pointed out. And well, we're known in the Yukon for first, what can we say? And your next recipient has done a lot of firsts as well, but I particularly want to congratulate Chancellor Allen. I know how avid he has worked to promote education and to work with the college, and now of course the university has a well-deserved and experienced chancellor. And to thank Piers, previous chancellor, because I know that for many decades actually, I hate to say it's that long, Piers, but Piers has been involved in education, and so this is the fruition of something very important, a great milestone, and we'll all remember that we sat here in our masks and really savored this moment, and we should. So thank you to everyone who made this happen. Thank you for this wonderful degree. I will definitely cherish it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Audrey. As a citizen of Champagne and Ajax First Nations, Dakota, Dave Joe is a son of Terry Joe and Jesse Hume. Imagine being called to your life's purpose at the age of 14. That's how old Dave was. That's how old. That's how old Dave was when Chief Elijah Smith asked him to join the fight to advance the land claim process. Dave accepted the challenge and was immersed in the push to recognize Aboriginal rights and title in the Yukon and beyond. He was there when Together Today for Our Children Tomorrow was written, outlining the Yukon First Nations plan for self-government. He was part of the contingent as chief negotiator that traveled to Ottawa to hand deliver it to the then Prime Minister, Pierre Trudeau. He studied law at the University of British Columbia. When he was called to the bar in 1977, he was the first lawyer of Yukon First Nations ancestry. For the next 2 decades, Dave focused on negotiating the details of the Umbrella Final Agreement, the historic framework governing for negotiating individual Yukon First Nation final and self-governing agreements that was signed in 1993. He then went on to support several Yukon First Nations governments in negotiating their final land claim agreements. In 2011, as the chief negotiator for the Teslin-Tlingit Council, Dave negotiated the first ever Administration of Justice agreement in Canada, based on a self-government agreement signed by Canada, Yukon, and the Teslin-Tlingit Council. Whether closing deals at negotiation tables, lobbying premiers and prime ministers for the advancement and protection of Aboriginal rights and titles and interests of Yukon First Nations, educating judges, lawyers, and the general public at law forums, Dave has exemplified a tenacious leadership. More recently, he has empowered the next generation of negotiators in classrooms here and inspired Yukon First Nations youth through a Walter Gordon Foundation treaty negotiation simulation. His impact is felt all around us and will continue for many years to come. The Yukon we know and love today, a place where 11 Yukon First Nations are self-governing, where First Nations culture and history is celebrated, where elders are revered, where languages are being revitalized, where embedded in the Yukon University Act is a commitment to reconciliation, to honoring the UFA and self-government agreements, and supporting the implementation of these agreements by building capacity through education and research. The Yukon we have today exists through the hard work and dedication of Dave Joe. It is my honor to ask Chancellor Allen to present this Yukon University Bachelor of Arts to Daka, Dave Joe, if you could please come forward. I'd also like to welcome Dave's daughters, Jamie Jo Hudson and Jessie Hudson. Thank you for coming. I'm going to have to do the presentation. Perfect. Thank you very much. Dave, would you like to say a few words? And Chancellor Allen, you're welcome to stand or. Absolutely.
Well, you're the boss now, James. I just wanted to say to Yukon University, thank you very much. This is my inaugural time in speaking through a mass. You know, it's fortunate and coincidental perhaps that I'm receiving this honorary degree from Yukon University from my fellow res school student at the Whitehorse Indian Mission School. And so in 1956, I was a student there, and if someone told me that this masked man who was a fellow student in 1956 would be presenting me a honorary degree, I would have said, you gotta be kidding. So thank you very much, James. I would like to thank, of course, the foresight of Yukon College. I recall that one of the initiatives of the early Yukon leaders and chiefs, they basically requested the establishment of a post-secondary institution north of 60. That was about 58 years ago. And finally, we managed to achieve it. Thanks to all of you. Again, the foresight, determination of Yukoners in that respect is great. And for me, it's a great honor to share our initial honors with Audrey. We go back a long time. I won't speculate in terms of how long we go back, but for me personally, it's a great honor. So, and I would also like to thank my family. They have always been certainly very supportive, and I appreciate that. So thank you. So, and again, thank you to the other Yukon chiefs. I see Mrs. Doris Allen up there. So thank you, Doris, for being here. And thank you to your late husband as well. So thank you all. Kushis.
I just wanted to say, congratulations to the two recipients. But also, I thank everybody that said some real kind words about me, about Dave. Like Dave said, we go back a long ways, but I wanted to do a proper introduction for Doris Allen. Because Doris's husband, Gary Allen, was very instrumental and he put not only in the Yukon but across Canada, because he was part of the AFN at one time, and also was chief of the Yukon, negotiator in the Yukon. But he always pushed education for the young people, and that was one of his mandates with the AFN, was education. And like Dave said, when we were all going to mission school together, Harry Allen included, we never envisioned these positions. But I just wanted to make sure that we don't forget Harry Allen, because he was a great leader, and I think there's a lot of people who were touched by him and are now carrying on the torch. So I just want to see that.
Thank you very much.
So thank you for that. Thank you, Audrey, and thank you, Dave, for your words. And congratulations on your honorary degree. That's more than well deserved. Absolutely great. This is the end of our ceremony today. And so if I could ask that you remain seated, we are going to do a procession out same as we came in. Sparge will lead us with the antler. And as we do that, I want to thank you all very, very much for coming and for being here to not only witness and support the new chancellor, but to also support the awarding of our honorary degrees. So thank you, Elder Hume, for your words, and Janet, for your part of this. And so if you will all just give us 1 minute here, and thank you very, very much for coming. It's a great event. Everyone.